Hello, I am Theo Hartwell, 17 years old, a senior at Brookhaven Preparatory Academy, and until 3 days ago, I lived in a world where my father, Miles Hartwell, was the most brilliant man I knew. He was the founder of Hartwell Tech, a software company that started in our garage and grew into a $10 million empire that revolutionized data analytics for healthcare systems across the Southeast. But let me tell you, this story isn't just about technology or money. It's about family, betrayal, and the lessons that shaped who I am becoming today. Our family mansion sits on a quiet street in Buckhead, Atlanta, where towering oak trees stand like ancient guardians protecting the estate. The morning sunlight filters through the Spanish moss, casting ethereal shadows across the manicured lawn as if nature itself is mourning alongside us. The house, with its modern glass facade and steel beams, is not merely an architectural statement. It's a symbol of everything my father built, everything he believed in, and everything I thought would always be mine. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I was born in that house, raised by my father's steady hands and my stepmother Renata's calculated smile. My father, Miles Hartwell, was a tall man, with graying temples and sharp, intelligent eyes that could read code like poetry. He was a visionary businessman, the kind of leader who could transform a simple algorithm into a life-saving medical tool. But what made me respect him wasn't his wealth or his reputation. It was the way he lived his principles. My father always told me, "Theo, a man's legacy isn't measured by the money he leaves behind, but by the lives he touches and the integrity he maintains when nobody's watching." Those words are etched into my soul, serving as a compass for every decision I make. Today, I stand in the marble foyer of Westside Baptist Church, watching hundreds of people file past my father's casket. Tech executives, board members, employees, and reporters, all here to pay their respects to the man who changed their industry. I wear my only black suit, the one he bought me for my junior prom last year, and I can still smell his cologne lingering on the fabric. The weight of grief sits heavy on my chest, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to believe that the man who taught me to code Python when I was 12 will never correct my syntax errors again. Renata Cross Hartwell, my stepmother of 2 years, glides through the crowd like a practiced politician. She's 42, impeccably dressed in designer black, her platinum blonde hair pulled back in a perfect chignon. She married my father when his company's valuation exploded, and though she's always been polite to me, there's something in her eyes that makes me feel like an inconvenience rather than family. The service begins, and I listen to her deliver a eulogy that sounds more like a corporate presentation than a loving tribute. 3 days after being thrown out of the only home I've ever known, I find myself sitting on a cracked vinyl booth in Murphy's Diner on Ponce de Leon Avenue, staring at the most important man I've never properly met. Jasper Lee is 55 years old, with wild gray hair that looks like he's been running his fingers through it for decades, and thick-rimmed glasses that magnify his intense brown eyes. He's wearing a rumpled tweed jacket that smells like coffee and old books, and there's something about his nervous energy that reminds me of my father during his most creative moments. "Theo," he says, sliding a small black flash drive across the Formica table between us, "your father was more prepared than anyone realized." I've been staying on my best friend Nico's couch for the past 72 hours, wearing the same jeans and Hartwell Tech hoodie, surviving on energy drinks and the crushing weight of abandonment. Nico Sanchez has been my anchor since middle school. He's 18, street smart, and has the kind of loyalty that makes you believe in humanity again. When Jasper called this morning asking to meet, Nico insisted on driving me here in his beat-up Honda Civic, and now he sits beside me, arms crossed, studying this eccentric lawyer, with the skepticism of someone who's learned not to trust adults too quickly. "What do you mean, prepared?" I ask, my voice hoarse from days of barely speaking. The diner buzzes with the lunch rush, construction workers, college students, and retirees who've made this place their second home. The smell of bacon grease and coffee fills the air, and somehow it's more comforting than the sterile perfection of the mansion I used to call home. Jasper adjusts his glasses and leans forward conspiratorially. Miles created a digital trust 2 months before his death. He was worried about Renata's intentions, especially after he overheard her discussing, quote, restructuring the company's leadership with someone on the phone. He never told me who, but it spooked him enough to take action. My heart pounds against my ribs. What kind of action? He transferred 65% controlling interest of Hartwell Tech to you, Theo. The trust is sealed, notarized, and completely legal. It's been sitting in my office safe, waiting for the right moment. Jasper's eyes gleam with something that might be pride or mischief. Your stepmother has no idea. Nico whistles low under his breath. Holy shit, dude, you're rich. It's not about the money, Jasper says sharply, then softens his tone. Well, not entirely. Miles recorded a video message explaining his decision. He wanted you to understand his vision for the company's future. The security guard at Hartwell Tech's gleaming downtown headquarters looks at me like I'm some kind of vagrant. I stand in the marble lobby, where I used to run around as a kid, where my father would bring me on weekends to show me the latest server configurations, and now I'm being treated like a stranger trying to sneak into a country club. The guard is a thick-set man with a military bearing, probably in his 50s, and his name tag reads Collins. Son, I'm going to need you to step back from the elevators, Collins says, his hand resting on his radio. Ms. Hartwell left specific instructions that you're not authorized to enter the building. I feel my face flush with humiliation. Behind me, the lobby fills with employees I've known since childhood, programmers, analysts, marketing executives who used to ruffle my hair and ask about school. Now they pretend not to see me, their eyes fixed on their phones or the elevator numbers, anything to avoid witnessing my public rejection. The morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the bronze plaque near the entrance that reads, Hartwell Tech, innovating tomorrow's healthcare solutions. My father's words, his vision, and I'm being barred from the building like some kind of criminal. This is my father's company, I say, my voice cracking despite my efforts to sound confident. I have every right to attend the board meeting. Collins shakes his head sympathetically. I'm sorry, kid. I really am. But I have my orders. Nico grabs my arm and pulls me toward the exit. Come on, man. We'll find another way. Outside on the sidewalk, the Atlanta heat hits us like a wall. The city buzzes with midday energy. Business people hurrying to lunch meetings. Construction crews working on the new office tower across the street, the distant sound of traffic from the interstate. I lean against the glass facade of the building that should be mine, feeling smaller than I have since my mother died 12 years ago. This is insane, I mutter, watching through the windows as board members file into the elevator. She's turning everyone against me. Nico pulls out his laptop, a battered ThinkPad that he somehow transformed into a digital Swiss Army knife. Remember when your dad let me intern in IT last summer? I still have system access. His fingers fly across the keyboard, and within minutes he's connected to the company's internal network. If we can't get in physically, we'll get in digitally. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we upload that trust video to the company's server. Make it impossible to ignore. Nico grins, and for the first time in days, I feel a spark of hope. Sometimes the best way to crash a party is through the back door. The text message arrives at 11:47 p.m., 3 days after our digital infiltration sent ripples through Hartwell Tech's corporate structure. I'm lying on Nico's couch, staring at the ceiling fan that squeaks with every rotation, when my phone buzzes with a number I don't recognize. Storage Unit 247 on Memorial Drive. Your father kept things there, third brick from the corner, behind the loose mortar. You have until morning before she figures it out. I show the message to Nico, who sprawled on the floor surrounded by energy drink cans and computer cables. His dark hair is disheveled, and there are circles under his eyes from 3 straight days of monitoring the company's internal chatter. Ever since Linda Rao, a junior board member, discovered the trust video on the server, the corporate world has been buzzing with speculation and damage control. Could be a trap, Nico says, but his eyes are already lighting up with the possibility of adventure. Or it could be someone who actually gives a damn about the truth. We take his Honda Civic through the empty Atlanta streets, past the neon glow of late-night diners and the darkened windows of office buildings. Memorial Drive stretches before us like a ribbon of possibility, and I can't shake the feeling that we're crossing some kind of threshold. The storage facility is a maze of identical concrete buildings, each one lined with orange metal doors that remind me of prison cells. Unit 247 is tucked away in a corner, shadowed by overgrown kudzu vines that seem to swallow the building whole. The lock is old-fashioned, the kind that requires an actual key rather than a digital code. I run my fingers along the brick wall until I find the loose mortar, and sure enough, there's a small silver key hidden behind it. Inside, the unit is filled with boxes labeled in my father's careful handwriting: server backups 2023, legal documents, personal projects. But what catches my attention is a small fireproof safe in the corner, its door slightly ajar. Inside, I find an encrypted hard drive with a sticky note attached, to be used only if trust is broken. H. Theo? The voice from behind us makes me jump. I spin around to find Sage Hartwell Cross standing in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the parking lot security lights. She's 15, with her mother's sharp features but softer eyes, and she's wearing black jeans and an oversized sweater that makes her look younger than her age. "Sage, what are you doing here?" I ask, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I followed you," she says simply, stepping into the storage unit. "I saw the text message when I was using Mom's phone to order pizza. She's been getting calls all day about some video that surfaced at the company." She pauses, studying the boxes around us. "She's scared, Theo, really scared. And when Mom gets scared, she gets dangerous." Nico and I exchange glances. "Why are you telling us this?" I ask. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Sage wraps her arms around herself, looking suddenly vulnerable. "Because I'm tired of pretending that what she did to you was okay. Because I knew your dad, and he was a good man. Because maybe," she trails off, then meets my eyes with surprising intensity, "maybe I'm tired of being on the wrong side." The encryption on my father's backup drive takes Nico 43 minutes to crack, and when the video file finally opens on his laptop screen, I see my father's face for the first time since the funeral. He's sitting in his home office, the one with the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking our backyard, and the late afternoon sunlight creates a golden halo around his graying hair. He looks tired, older than I remember, but his eyes hold the same intensity that used to light up when he explained complex algorithms to me. "Theo," he says, his voice carrying across the small speakers with startling clarity, "if you're watching this, then something has gone wrong, very wrong." We're huddled around Nico's laptop in his cramped bedroom, the three of us sitting cross-legged on his unmade bed like we're about to watch a movie. But this isn't entertainment. This is my father reaching across the grave to speak to me, and my chest tightens with a mixture of grief and anticipation. "I need you to understand something, son. Hartwell Tech was never about the money. It was about using technology to save lives, to make healthcare more accessible, to bridge the gap between innovation and human compassion. When I started this company in our garage, I had a vision of software that could predict cardiac events, algorithms that could detect cancer markers earlier than any human doctor. We've made incredible progress, but we're just getting started." My father pauses, running his hand through his hair in a gesture I recognize from 1,000 bedtime stories and homework sessions. Renata doesn't understand this vision. She sees dollar signs and market share, but she doesn't see the patients whose lives we're saving. She wants to pivot the company toward financial software, toward maximizing profit margins instead of maximizing human impact. I can't let that happen. Sage shifts beside me, her breathing shallow. This is the first time she's hearing her mother criticized so directly, and I can see the conflict playing out across her face. Nico reaches over and squeezes her hand, a simple gesture of support that makes me grateful for his presence in all of this. "The trust I've created gives you controlling interest in the company, Theo. But more importantly, it gives you the responsibility to carry on what we started. You're 17 years old, and I know this seems overwhelming, but I've watched you code since you were 12. I've seen how you think about problems, how you approach challenges with both logic and empathy. You have your mother's heart and my technical mind, and that combination is exactly what this company needs." Quote. He leans forward, his eyes seeming to look directly at me through the screen. "Don't let anyone tell you that you're too young or too inexperienced. Age doesn't determine wisdom, and experience doesn't guarantee integrity. Trust yourself, trust your instincts, and remember that the best leaders aren't the ones who seek power. They're the ones who accept responsibility when it's thrust upon them." The video ends with my father's hand reaching toward the camera, as if he's trying to touch my face one last time. The screen goes black, leaving us in the quiet darkness of Nico's bedroom, surrounded by the weight of legacy and the burden of choice. The emergency board meeting is scheduled for 2 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, and I arrive at Hartwell Tech headquarters wearing my father's navy blue suit, the one he wore to investor presentations and company milestones. It's slightly too big on my 17-year-old frame, but Jasper insisted that appearance matters in corporate warfare. The same security guard, Collins, who barred me from the building just days ago, now nods respectfully as Jasper flashes legal documents that grant me temporary access pending the trust investigation. "Good luck, son," Collins whispers as we pass through the marble lobby. "Your dad was a good man." The elevator ride to the 20th floor feels endless, my heart hammering against my ribs with each passing floor. Jasper stands beside me, clutching his worn leather briefcase and muttering legal arguments under his breath like a scholar preparing for the most important exam of his life. Through the elevator's glass walls, I can see the Atlanta skyline stretching toward the horizon, a concrete jungle where my father built his empire one line of code at a time. The boardroom is exactly as I remember from the few times Dad brought me to meetings as a kid. A long mahogany table surrounded by leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city, and walls lined with awards and patents that represent years of innovation. But today, the atmosphere is electric with tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. Renata sits at the head of the table, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray power suit, her platinum hair pulled back in a severe bun that makes her look like a corporate warrior. She's surrounded by board members I've known since childhood. Linda Rao, the junior member who discovered our uploaded video. Marcus Webb, the CFO who used to give me stock market lessons during company picnics. And 7 others whose allegiances have become unclear in the wake of recent revelations. "Gentlemen, ladies," Renata says, her voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to controlling rooms full of powerful people. "We're here to address some unfortunate disruptions that have threatened our company's stability." Jasper clears his throat and stands, his eccentric appearance suddenly transformed into something commanding. "Actually, Ms. Cross-Hartwell, we're here to present legal evidence that Miles Hartwell's final wishes have been deliberately ignored." He opens his briefcase and distributes copies of the trust documents, each page meticulously organized and highlighted. The room falls silent, except for the whisper of turning pages and the distant hum of Atlanta traffic 20 floors below. "This is preposterous," Renata snaps, her composed facade cracking slightly. "Miles was under tremendous stress in his final months. He wasn't thinking clearly." "On the contrary," I say, standing up for the first time and feeling my father's oversized jacket settle around my shoulders like armor. "He was thinking more clearly than ever." I walk to the presentation screen and insert the encrypted drive, my hands surprisingly steady despite the magnitude of the moment. He recorded this message specifically for this situation, knowing that his vision for the company might be challenged. The video begins, and my father's voice fills the boardroom with quiet authority, explaining his decision, his trust in my capabilities, and his fears about Hartwell Tech's future direction. As he speaks, I watch the board members' faces, seeing doubt transform into consideration, resistance shift toward understanding. The first article appears on TechCrunch at 6:47 a.m., 3 days after the board voted to delay their decision pending a full investigation. I'm sitting at Nico's kitchen table, drinking instant coffee and reviewing quarterly reports that Jasper smuggled out of the office, when my phone explodes with notifications. The headline makes my stomach drop. "Hartwell Tech Air, troubled teen, or corporate savior. The article is a masterpiece of character assassination disguised as investigative journalism. It details my disciplinary issues at Brookhaven Prep, a single incident where I was caught hacking into the school's network to fix a bug in their grading system. It mentions my history of emotional instability following my mother's death, complete with quotes from unnamed sources describing me as withdrawn, antisocial, and potentially volatile. "This is insane," Nico says, reading over my shoulder. "They're making you sound like some kind of delinquent." By noon, the story has been picked up by every major tech publication. My phone buzzes constantly, with calls from reporters, investors, and board members. Social media explodes, with speculation about my mental health, my qualifications, and my motives. Someone has leaked what appears to be a medical record from when I was 14, seeking therapy after a particularly difficult anniversary of my mother's death. The document, which I'm certain is fabricated, describes me as having, quote, anger management issues and difficulty accepting authority. I retreat to Nico's bedroom, pulling the covers over my head like I used to do as a child during thunderstorms. The weight of public scrutiny feels crushing, and for the first time since this battle began, I wonder if Renata is right. Maybe I am too young, too inexperienced, too damaged to lead a company worth millions of dollars. "Theo?" Sage's voice comes from the doorway. She's been staying at Nico's house since confronting her mother about the smear campaign, and her presence has become an unexpected source of strength. "You need to see this." She shows me her phone, displaying a Twitter thread that's gone viral. The original tweet reads, "Why is everyone attacking a 17-year-old kid who just lost his father? Maybe ask what the stepmother has to hide. Hashtag Theo Hartwell, hashtag Justice for Miles." Attached are screenshots of financial documents showing Renata's previous marriages, her history of targeting wealthy older men, and a pattern of legal settlements involving irreconcilable differences that always seemed to favor her financially. The thread has been retweeted thousands of times, with tech workers, former Hartwell employees, and random strangers rallying to my defense. "Who posted this?" I ask, scrolling through the overwhelming support. Sage smiles for the first time in days. "Someone who believes in you." Later that evening, as I sit in the living room watching news anchors debate my fitness to run a company, my phone rings. It's Linda Rao, the board member who's been quietly supportive throughout this ordeal. "Theo," she says, her voice tight with urgency, "I need you to know that 3 more board members are planning to flip their votes in your favor. Renata's tactics are backfiring. People are starting to see through her manipulation. I feel a spark of hope for the first time in days. What do I need to do?" "Be yourself, tell your truth, and don't let her destroy what your father built." The live stream begins at 8 p.m. on a Sunday evening, broadcasting from Nico's cluttered living room with nothing more than his laptop's webcam and a ring light he borrowed from his sister's YouTube setup. I'm wearing my father's blue button-down shirt, the one he wore during his first TED Talk about ethical technology, and despite my sweaty palms and racing heart, I feel more prepared for this moment than I have for anything in my 17 years of life. "My name is Theo Hartwell," I begin, looking directly into the camera lens, "and I want to tell you the truth about my father, his company, and what's really happening at Hartwell Tech." Within the first 5 minutes, we have over 2,000 viewers. By the time I finish explaining the trust documents, the number has climbed to 15,000. The chat window scrolls frantically with messages of support, questions about the legal proceedings, and angry comments about corporate manipulation. Sage sits just outside the camera frame, holding a manila folder filled with documents that could destroy her mother's reputation forever. She's been wrestling with this decision for days, torn between family loyalty and moral integrity. When she finally nods and slides the folder across the coffee table, I know she's made her choice. These are text messages between my stepmother and Marcus Grayson, the lawyer she hired to contest the trust, I say, holding up printed screenshots. They discuss strategies for discrediting me, including fabricating medical records and paying former classmates to provide negative testimonials. The viewer count explodes past 30,000 as I read selected messages aloud. "The kid's grief makes him vulnerable. We can spin that as instability. Find anyone from his school willing to say he was violent or unpredictable. If we can't prove incompetence, we'll create it." Quote, Nico monitors social media on his tablet, periodically showing me encouraging tweets and news articles that are already being written in real time. The hashtag #TruthForTheo is trending nationally, and major tech influencers are sharing the stream with their millions of followers. But this isn't just about me, I continue, feeling my confidence grow with each passing minute. This is about what happens when greed disguises itself as leadership, when personal ambition overrides corporate responsibility. My father built Hartwell Tech to save lives, to make healthcare technology accessible to everyone. Under Renata's proposed leadership, the company would abandon its medical mission to chase financial software contracts with higher profit margins. I pause, thinking about my father's final video message, about his hands teaching me to code, about the dreams we shared for using technology to help people. Miles Hartwell didn't leave me this company because I'm his son. He left it to me because he believed I would protect his vision when others might abandon it for easy money. The stream ends with over 50,000 concurrent viewers and a promise to release all supporting documents on a dedicated website. Within hours, major news networks are calling for interviews, investors are issuing statements of support, and 3 more board members have publicly declared their intention to honor the trust. For the first time since my father's funeral, I feel like I might actually win this fight. The Fulton County Superior Courthouse feels like a cathedral of justice, with its marble columns and vaulted ceilings that seem to reach toward some higher truth. I sit at the plaintiff's table wearing my father's charcoal gray suit, the one he wore to his most important business meetings, and I can almost feel his presence beside me as Judge Patricia Morrison reviews the final arguments in the case of Hartwell versus Cross Hartwell. The past 3 weeks have been a blur of depositions, document reviews, and media scrutiny that would have broken me a month ago. But something has changed inside me during this process. I've found a strength I didn't know I possessed, a clarity of purpose that comes from fighting for something bigger than myself. Renata sits across the aisle with her new legal team led by Marcus Grayson, a silver-haired attorney whose reputation for aggressive tactics precedes him into every courtroom. She's dressed immaculately in navy blue, her platinum hair styled to perfection, but I can see the cracks in her composure. The public livestream, Sage's defection, and the mounting evidence of her manipulation have taken their toll. "Your Honor," Grayson argues, his voice carrying the theatrical weight of someone accustomed to commanding attention, "we're being asked to believe that a 17-year-old boy, still processing the trauma of losing his father, is capable of running a multi-million-dollar corporation. The trust in question was created during a period when Mr. Hartwell was under tremendous personal and professional stress, possibly compromising his judgment." Jasper stands to respond, his eccentric appearance transformed into something dignified and powerful. "Over the past month, I've learned that his rumpled exterior hides one of the sharpest legal minds in Atlanta. Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows that Miles Hartwell was of sound mind when he created the trust. We have testimony from his doctor, his accountant, and multiple colleagues confirming his mental clarity. More importantly, we have documented evidence of Ms. Cross Hartwell's attempts to manipulate the legal process through fabricated evidence and character assassination." The judge calls for a recess, and I step outside into the Atlanta heat with Nico and Sage. The courthouse steps are crowded with reporters, protesters holding signs that read "Justice for Theo" and "Protect Teen Rights," and curious onlookers drawn by the media circus. The support is overwhelming and humbling, but what matters most is the small group of people standing with me. Nico, who's become more of a brother than a friend, Sage, who chose integrity over family loyalty, and Jasper, who's fighting for my father's vision as fiercely as if it were his own. "Whatever happens in there," Sage says, squeezing my hand, "you've already won. You've shown everyone who you really are." When we return to the courtroom, Judge Morrison's expression is unreadable. She reviews her notes one final time, then looks directly at me with eyes that seem to see through all the legal complexity to the heart of the matter. "Having reviewed all evidence, testimony, and legal precedents," she begins, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority, This court finds that the digital trust created by Miles Hartwell is valid and legally binding. Mr. Theo Hartwell is hereby recognized as the majority owner and rightful heir to Hartwell Tech. The gavel falls, and with it the sound of justice finally being served. 6 months later, I stand in the renovated lobby of what was once my family's mansion, now transformed into the Hartwell Foundation's headquarters. The sleek glass and steel structure has been retrofitted with collaborative workspaces, computer labs, and meeting rooms where young developers from underserved communities gather to learn coding, app development, and the principles of ethical technology. The morning sunlight streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the bronze plaque near the entrance that reads, Miles Hartwell Center for Digital Innovation, where technology meets compassion. Today marks the official launch of our newest initiative, a partnership with Atlanta Public Schools to provide free coding education to students whose families can't afford private programming camps. I'm 18 now, legally an adult, but more importantly, I've grown into the leader my father believed I could become. The weight of responsibility no longer feels crushing, it feels purposeful. Ladies and gentlemen, I say, addressing the crowd of students, parents, educators, and tech industry leaders gathered in our main auditorium, my father always taught me that the true measure of success isn't the money you accumulate, but the lives you impact along the way. Nico stands near the back of the room, wearing a crisp, button-down shirt and the confident smile of someone who's found his calling. He now runs our community outreach division, using his street-smart perspective and technical skills to bridge the gap between corporate innovation and grassroots need. Beside him, Sage operates a camera for the Foundation's YouTube channel, documenting our programs and sharing stories of young people who are discovering their potential through technology. Hartwell Tech continues to innovate in healthcare software, I continue, but we've also committed 30% of our annual profits to this foundation. We believe that every young person deserves access to the tools that can transform their future, regardless of their zip code or family income. After the ceremony, I drive to Westview Cemetery in my father's restored 1967 Mustang, the one he was rebuilding in our garage before he died. The engine purrs with the satisfaction of a project finally completed, and I park beneath the oak tree that shades his grave. My mother's headstone sits beside his, their names etched in granite as a testament to love that transcends death. I place the encrypted flash drive on my father's grave, the same device that contained his final message and changed the trajectory of my life. I kept my promise, Dad, I whisper, feeling the Georgia breeze rustle through the leaves above. The company is safe, and we're using it to help people, just like you always wanted. As I walk back to the car, my phone buzzes with a text from Jasper. Board meeting went perfectly. The new healthcare AI project is approved for development. Your father would be proud. I smile, sliding into the driver's seat and starting the engine. The road ahead stretches toward downtown Atlanta, toward Hartwell Tech's headquarters, toward a future built on the foundation of integrity and compassion my parents instilled in me. I'm no longer the grieving, abandoned teenager who was kicked out after his father's funeral. I'm Theo Hartwell, CEO of a company dedicated to saving lives and guardian of a legacy that will outlive us all. Up next, we have 2 more incredible stories that are waiting for you. Just click the image you want to watch, and it will take you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, it would mean a lot.